as we continue to talk about the anniversary of that deadly DCA crash, some airspace rules have changed, but is it enough, and will they stay in place? We've got Strategic Director for Concerned Veterans for America and a veteran of the United States Marine Corps and Army National Guard, John Byrnes, to talk about this. We talk about that Route 4, John. We were talking earlier with the attorney and with the aviation expert, the possibility that that would reopen, which the NTSB said would be absolutely detrimental to any plane landing or taking off from Reagan National. Obviously, the airspace near and around D.C., heavy military, carries VIPs, including the president here. What changes can be made, and is it sustainable to keep that route shut down?
Yeah, just, before that, I want to just, express total condolences to the families and all the affected. I left D.C. Reagan about 2 hours before that. I landed and got home to see it on the news. A lot could be changed. I mean, there's a failure of government. I heard your last set of guests. The FAA clearly dropped the ball. A lot went wrong there. I've flown in on that route and watched helicopters pass beneath the plane. It's scary. It's an important mission, though, for the Army. It's an important mission for the Department of Defense. That Route 4 is designed, and they run that route as training in order to evacuate the president, the vice president, secretary of defense, and other VIPs during a national emergency. So the mission has to get done. But there are lots and lots of measures that the Army itself could take, installing those ASDBs and making sure they're working, making sure that the pilots are trained in night vision use around the city before they're running that route. I think that might have been a contributing factor. There was a report in the NTSB, there was mention of the fact that the altimeters in the helicopters are not necessarily calibrated correctly, and that the Army has never published that. Knowing what I know about Army aviation, and I'm not a pilot, but I've flown in a lot of Blackhawks, there has to be some word of mouth that that's a problem. But the training on that route could also be done at a different time, right? You think about Reagan Airport, it's a lot busier right around 6, 7 o'clock than it is at 1 o'clock in the morning. So they can get the same night training later on. There's just so much that could be done better, even on the Army's part.
Yeah, I mean, it was the perfect confluence of all sorts of issues that just aligned here. Flaws, like the chairperson said, and also failures from the FAA, to your point, but including that ADSB, that automatic dependent surveillance broadcast tracking system, that was off the night of the crash. And unknown if that could have changed things, but it likely would have alerted.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that struck me is pilots who are coming into D.C. Reagan should know this training mission is on. There's no reason, unless it's a real-world mission, that should not be part of kind of the mission brief of the Army helicopter. Hey, you need to let everyone know that there's a shared channel, that pilots coming in are made aware, very early on, that there is a helicopter mission going, helicopter rehearsal. There are just so many more things that the FAA, not only the FAA, and they came under a lot of fire from the NTSB, but the Army could step up, and I'm sure they are. But to that point, Army lessons learned, they knew that the altimeters were a problem, and yet somehow that didn't officially get to the pilot community. Yeah,
just an unfortunate confluence of events there, a tragedy, and so many close calls that we know and have learned from the NTSB in years prior to this crash. John, we always appreciate your perspective, and thank you for telling us a little bit of how you shared that day. Just an unfortunate moment for so many in this region, including, of course, for those families. Stay with us. Back after this.